Hello and welcome back to the lab. Today on the bench we have another speaker. This is another component to the speakers that we did before. If you're just finding the channel on this video, we did the mid and high-end BX5As in another video. This is the low-end reinforcement that I was talking about. This is a KRK10S subwoofer system, near-field sub for a recording studio bench. I use them both here in the lab as low-end reinforcement and as the subwoofer for our theater system. And it hits quite well for the size it is. In terms of subs, this is about mid-size. They get much, much bigger than this. They also get quite a bit smaller than this. The smaller ones don't really hit that well. And the bigger ones, well, they'll shake the windows out of the frames. It all depends on what we're going for. This one is actually really nice in that it has line in and line out. So if you have a preamp, you run the preamp into here, and then you run this to the mids and highs. Actually, it's here and here, not right and left, it's up and down. But and then this does the crossover, so it only sends the mids and highs out the line out, and it goes boom when it needs to. Ground lift, in and out XLR, in and out RCA, and balanced in on 1/4 inch mono. Lots of options here. Volume control, and then this is the crossover frequency. So this is a tunable crossover and a phase shift 0 and 180 degree phase. This one, what's it doing is I have two, actually may have more of these, but I have two, and this one's acting up, the other one's behaving just fine. So randomly in the middle of the night, this will just start rumbling, no audio going into it, the system's completely off, and this will just be booming away down in the theater. This one needs some repair. I'm expecting this to be very similar to the BX5As. Without even taking all the screws off or anything like that, I'm expecting to do a capacitor refresh on this, as well as possibly reheat sinking the amplifier ICs and giving it a general cleaning, because I highly doubt it needs much more than that. So to get into this, I'm going to start with screws at the perimeter. We're going to see if we can't get this logic and power board out. So as I pull this apart, my working theory is noise on the power rails or a slight bit of oscillation in the amplifier is what's causing it to go kind of nuts. When comparing it to the other one, it's also hitting a bit less. So it's like it has less punch than the other unit. So I definitely think there's something going wrong in the power section of the amplifier on this one. Speaker's in great shape, no holes, no nothing. Everything's fine. I believe these had a I think these had a Kevlar cone in them. Nice and tight too on the sub side of things. Construction wise, we're in MDF. Alright, hooking into this top screw, I was able to pop the adhesive off. There was a slight little bit of foam that holds this metal plate in. Let's see if we have enough wire. Quite a bit. Ooh, linear supply on this one too. Let's see what we have. Those are soldered wires. Okay, so we're going to need to actually unplug this from the speaker to get this out. There's not a lot of room. All right, here is what makes a KRK10S go boom. Nice big power transformer here for whatever the wattage of this speaker is. I'm not 100% sure. These are the speaker leads. Very, very stout cable. Amplifier board's going to be over here. Here's the amplification ICs. Let's see, what else do we have? Kind of don't like the way the amp ICs are put in, but there's nothing I can do about that because that was the way they designed it. We do have the black kind of slastic elements, still very pliable, not brittle and busted up. Also, it is not conductive on this board, so I don't think that is our problem. However, I do see, especially on the input, quite a bit of problematic capacitors. We have, they're in the values where I have trouble with them, and this one looks a little domed. So definitely probably going to be working on here. To see what that 4580 is, we have lots of nice op amps on here. So inputs, that's the XLR inputs and the 1/4 inch inputs. So this is my input board, this is my power supply board, and this is my primary amplification board back here. And I'm not sure, some more inputs and some of the LEDs and stuff are coming out of that board there. So that's a general tour. I think we're going to start by doing a capacitor refresh on the input board. We'll check some of the big stuff on the power board, and we will do a capacitor refresh on this board. These orange guys don't tend to age very well, so we'll see what we can do about them. And then it looks like we have some bias adjustments and things like that too, so I may have to dig up a service manual and see what we need to do. Looks like this plug, and this plug down here, and this board will come out. Make it easy to work on. Okay, well, I was wrong in my initial assessment. I thought I was going to get lucky and the glue was not going to have gone conductive. However, that's 11 megohms, 10. Glue's conductive. Over here we have 1 megohm. So that glue has gone conductive and needs to be cleaned. The good news is it's very, very brittle and it's flaking off. So shouldn't take too much to clean that. A little bit of mechanical action and some solvent. We are going to recap this board as well. I have a sneaking suspicion the 10s and 1s, those are usually the ones that have the worst ESR on these, is the 10 mic and the 1 mic. And these orange audio capacitors, these haven't, in a lot of gear, these haven't held up very well, so we will definitely test these. Alright, I know I was punching on these orange audio capacitors in the beginning, and was I unfair to them or not? Nope, I was not unfair to them. 4.6 ohms of ESR on these. If anybody does know, at least back in the day, what made these a specific audio capacitor or not, let me know in the comments. I'm actually curious. I don't know why these specific capacitors would perform better in audio circuits versus any other circuits. The one thing that I have heard engineering-wise, which may or may not be true, I'm not 100% sure, is they were a low ESR capacitor, actually an ultra-low ESR capacitor. I did have some ultra-low ESR caps to replace them. I still have a couple left to do, but we're moving forward, and I'll check some of the other ones, bring you guys back when I pull some of the bigger ones out. But definitely these orange ones gotta go. Okay, here we are. Board's back on the heatsink. Haven't put the heatsink back on the plate yet, but we have regooped all the transistors, so my output should stay nice and cool. Back plate's gonna get hot. There was a thermal interface compound on the back, so we're not gonna mess with that. If this wasn't here, I would put more of the transistor grease on here to dissipate some heat off the side of the heatsink onto the back of the case, but that pad's there and that's okay. All the black glue has been removed for the most part, and aside from this one connector, which is, actually I need to scrape some of that off. So we'll get on that before we put this all back together. And then the next stop's going to be the input board. There's a lot of little caps on the input board. I highly suspect we have some ESR issues and things like that with those values, but this the output board is pretty close to finished at this point. Well, this took some getting out. Holy crap. the glue mixed with the foam tape to decrease the rattle on the plugs, plus there was a hidden screw underneath the glue with some. This isn't dried and crusty like the other one is. This is still very pliable, and I don't see how much is stretching. We're gonna have to clean that up. Hopefully the alcohol attacks it and I can get that off of there. I don't like this blob sitting on one of the op amps. Definitely don't like that. So we're going to clean all this stuff up, get that off of there. Had some of the solder mask get pulled off from probably disconnecting a wire. I wouldn't imagine there's a glue ball there somewhere. Lots of caps we're going to have to do on this board. The polymer ones are going to stay, or the poly caps are going to stay. The electrolytics are going to go. And we're going to go from there, see if it doesn't quiet this thing down. All right, here we are all back together and ready for me to reassemble the speaker. The only thing left I got to do is come here, plug this in, and give it some power. Make sure nothing pops, smokes out, blows up, does anything stupid. In terms of capacitors that were bad, there was quite a few of them. The big bulk caps actually tested faulty for DC leakage, so they weren't too happy. They're rated at 6,800 microfarads. On one of my testers, they were reading 7,700. So they're out and replaced. This is one of the smaller power supply capacitors. Actually, here is where it was sitting. It's all bulged up and dead. This one tests completely open, so that's out. The audio capacitors, as suspected, they tested very bad for ESR and not so great for capacitance. There was an absolute sea of non-polar capacitors. Everything that's blue on this board was a non-polar capacitor that I had to get a shipment in. I was not expecting to need that many bipolar caps. These two at the end were polarized. These are the power filters for the board, and those are hooked up with low ESR capacitors. So all in all, we're doing pretty good. More thermal grease on the heatsink, so the active components have been re-greased. Everything's been good to go. We're ready to put this in, put some power to it, and make sure we don't have any pops. All right, the last time we had some excitement, I did not have the camera rolling, so we do now. If this thing pours out smoke, you guys will be able to see it with me. I've got the power supply hooked up to the isolation transformer and limited supply. Looks like we're in protect mode. Should come out here in a second. And the speaker is idling at about 10 watts. And there we go. It's come out of protect, and the relay clicked. We went up to about 12 watts. So everything looks good so far. We're just going to let this sit. Definitely do not have a problem with the way this is functioning. If this goes well, we'll wrap that. I did plug in the speaker. Positive was at the top, negative was on the side. So it did have a load just in case it wanted one. But this thing is dead quiet. I can't even hear any hum through it. Bring you guys in. Let me know if you hear anything. That is an absolutely dead quiet speaker. No buzz, no hum, no nothing. This is working very, very well. There was some faint hissing, things like that before. We're down to 8 watts, which isn't too bad. Let's let me get this slightly put back together. We'll throw some signal on it and see if it rumbles. All right, everything sounds good so far. There's a slight, very slight ticking. I may have an active that's acting a little funny, but I won't know until I actually let this get really good and hot. So nothing left now but for me to watch a movie and see what's going on. When I'm back behind the camera, the speaker sounds fine. Everything's dead quiet. When I'm right up against the speaker, I can hear the slightest every once in a while, a little bit of popcorn noise. It sounds like popcorn noise from one of the actives. So I'm going to see if it acts up, if it tries to oscillate again or anything like that. The caps were definitely pretty toasted and giving it a decent amount of signal. I was pulling 100 watts off of the power line. So we do have amplification. Everything is looking really, really good. So time to heat this thing up. Let's let this get toasty, and I'm going to go watch a movie. Unit's been running for quite some time, and it's been happy. I had a couple things that I needed to change on it, and some weirdness. I didn't turn the camera back on to start the troubleshooting process, but we're still getting a little bit of the pops and the hiss and things like that out of the sub. So put it back on the bench. Just started probing things. I was actually touching the bases of the output transistors just to see if the noise was there, and to start working from the output transistors back. And did see the noise for about 2 minutes, and then it went away. And it's been gone for hours. So I don't know what the thing's doing, but it's really, really difficult to troubleshoot something that's not there. So for now, it's working. If we do have to tear it apart and troubleshoot it again, we'll hit the record button and let you guys know what happened. I used this as the cable for it, and there's something up with this cable. This put some 60-cycle buzz on it. So hook this up, and then it would meet. So got a better RCA cable for that, and that has gotten everything working. And the sub's dead quiet. Like, I got it at half volume and nothing. No buzz, no nothing, no hiss. It's just dead quiet. But when it's asked to speak, it booms the room like it's supposed to. So at the moment, everything's working. Definitely needed to do the cap change. Definitely needed to do the transistor thermal problem, or get those re-greased so that they didn't have a thermal problem. The noise that I was hearing was possibly some power rail static. The new caps bedding in, seeing voltage for the first time, maybe some dielectric absorption. We were hearing the actual capacitors. Some things happen inside it, a la the power rail, so something would happen with the cap, would bias a power rail for a second, which would go into the signal chain and be amplified and come out the speaker as a slight pop. It was volume independent, so if I turned the volume knob all the way down, I still heard that real faint popping in the speaker. So it was definitely post-volume board. It could also be popcorn noise out of the ICs and the transistors. Maybe an op-amp's getting a little noisy. I didn't see any resistors that were known for getting noisy in there. They were all high-performance parts. But we'll see how it goes in the future. Only time's going to tell at this point if the sub's going to behave or not. So with that, as always, I check the comments between every video. If you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe, like, and share button, and help the channel grow. If you'd like additional content and want to support the channel, check out the Patreon page. Patreons are running ahead for YouTube releases, and their support helps keep the lights on here in the lab. With that, as always, more's on the way, and I will see everybody in the next video.